So I'm back at it with another project, and this time I'm cleaning up the water bay area. And some of the things I'm going to update is I'm going to utilize some of the empty space in front of the water bins on the fill side to add some shelving. I'm also going to be moving the filters around and the pump and the accumulator down below, and then also moving this around to just kind of clean up some of this space I'm not using, like here for the washer and dryer lines. And then I'm going to move up the water heater enough so that I can put our stinky slinky tube underneath, and then also have another little drawer space down there for things, just things like for washing the bus and soaps. And then on the front, I'm going to put a big, basically I'm going to put a big closable door on this so that I can build some cabinetry on the front of this and actually use it for the soaps and towels and stuff that I have. So first of all, I've got to get all of this removed. And then you can see here where I have some damage where I overfilled the tank once and it blew things out. So you can see it is a little loose. So I'll replace this entire sheet of wood. Also, I have to remove this heat line. This is my AC line, high and low lines for the condenser coil. And then this is for the heater core. And what I'm going to do is just take out those bolts right there. I'm going to take those out, and I have 1-inch caps I'm just going to put inside there and then clamp them back off. And then all this and these, the thermostat and this will come out. And so I wasn't able to get all of the recording done on building the front of the cabinet. I just ran out of battery and, well, sunshine. And I continued to work into the night to just get the project completed over the next couple days. But anyways, here's my schematic, so I'm going to start working towards getting all this going. And so I've gotten this side all plumbed up and everything pretty well straightened up, ready for getting in the rest of the cold lines to go up and connect, which I've already done that. I made sure we had kitchen water last night, so the kitchen sink was hooked up. Now I just got to finish plumbing in the shower and sink line, which the washer line is right up here. There it is. And then I've got to also run a line from this side over to the water heater down here. The other thing too is I was going to build a wall out here that came out about 4 inches so that I could put my water heater up high like this, and then have storage underneath over here. And then the front, my plan was to build a cabinet that would open and kind of close all this off. I did use my schematic last night, and it gave me a good reference for whenever I was doing the build out. But I do have a city line in, and my city line runs down and over through my sediment filter, and then this is basically my Y. One line goes straight to fill the tank, and the other one goes for city service and goes up and straight into the filters there. Those are my check valves, so there's no backflow. So I don't want to be backflowing from my filter through here and then back down into the line. So I have a check valve there that's one way, and a check valve there that's one way. So this is the water pump side or tank side up to the water pump. I got the accumulator tank, and then up through the check valve and into the water filters. So, and then it comes out and goes over and feeds my manifold, and then I have my kitchen line out. So I just got to finish running the rest of the lines out, and then I'll start working on the hot side. I pulled out my heater lines there for my antifreeze that used to go down to these heater radiators here for the main bus air, which I don't use anymore. And then also the high and low AC lines are still in. I'm not going to mess with those. I'm just going to leave them there. So here, I'm just making the last few adjustments to the cold side, and then I'm going to start mocking up the area for my water heater. And I'm just using basically some treated 3/4 inch plywood. And then I'm just going to make a little wall that I can build my shelving unit off of that will swing outwards. So I measured multiple times, just trying to get a good reference as to how I was going to build it. And then basically here it is. And one of the things I did here was I thought I was going to cut a hole in that piece of wood and place the water heater inside of it. Instead, I thought, oh, well, why don't I just lay it flat instead, and then I'll just have a shelf that I can lay it on. So just overthinking things, but then figuring it out. So here it is, put together. I'm taking it out. I'm going to go paint it black to match the other piece of wood, and then I'm just going to keep working on the rest of the PVC piping. Or, excuse me, PEX piping. So a really cool method that I figured out along the way of using PEX for plumbing is that I like to use the copper crimps And one of the ways that you can kind of set them once you get everything measured out, because they will just slide around on the pipes until you crimp them, is I take a pair of pliers and I just gently squeeze on them to hold them in place and keep the PEX line where I want it to be until I'm ready to actually crimp it down. PEX is pretty easy to use. It's really hard to mess it up. However, I don't know, if I was to go back and do it again, I might use the regular squeeze crimps, I guess. I don't know what they're actually called. The copper ones are great because they're solid, but they're much harder to remove when you make mistakes. I actually went and bought a removal tool because I had made so many crimps and then realized that I needed to move it while working on this. So I definitely took this apart more times than this camera shows. So here I've got my black shelf painted just to seal it up, and then I'm just making reference with, I'm referencing where and how high it's going to be and making sure that everything is going to fit. And I'm just using regular screws and attaching it, pocket hole screws, and attaching it to the side of the bay wall there. And then now I'm working on the washer and dryer side and kind of moving around a little bit back and forth. So I finally started using a tape. Before I was just eyeballing things, and usually I'm good about using a measuring tape, but sometimes I just like to use my wits to figure things out. So I'm not gonna talk through this whole thing. I'll just get some music going for you while I do the rest of this and check back in a little bit. Now, I did have to pull this water heater out multiple times and remeasure things and reset it. So I was just hoping that I wouldn't beat it up the whole time too much to where, I might end up hurting it. But it actually survived, still working just fine. So I couldn't finish recording the rest of what was going on there because, as you could see, it was getting dark. So I just kept going throughout the night, kept working, got the water heater set. And then now I'm just basically rebuilding the hot side, and it just over and over again, you're gonna set the lines, unset them, and then just keep making new cuts and putting everything back together. But donkey alert. So here you'll see I'm getting ready to pull this cold line out that feeds the water heater. And there you go. I have to build the entire system first, or put the line together, and then I go back with pliers first and set the crimps. And then that way it keeps them from sliding around and coming apart. And then I just go through the whole line with the actual PEX crimpers and then set the line. And then I just feed the whole thing back in there, and voila, there it is. All right, so here I'm getting ready to measure and cut the 2 little pieces of wood I need to build the little, I guess the faucet mounting bracket, you could call it. It's basically just 2 pieces of wood that I put together, 2 pieces of plywood, and made an L bracket. And I just stuck the faucet up there and made sure that I knew how much, I guess, thickness, or there you go, you can see it. It's a very simple build. And then I'm basically going to attach that by screwing through the top of the water heater into the bottom of that wood, and then also I'll put a set screw on the black wall sticking out into the side of that little shelf, and then I drilled pocket hole screws to the far end, or the right side of it, by that electrical outlet. I just used pocket hole screws and went straight into that wall. So here I'm cutting the line set for the cold spigot, the cold water side for the spigot and for the faucet, so they'll share the same line, and then I'll come back and build the hot water line set as well, and it'll run over off of the manifold. So there you go, I'm just getting started on measuring, so back to the music. Okay, so I'll apologize again. I just didn't have enough battery life to do the recording, and really when I get into these projects, it's just really hard to make sure that the cameras are catching everything. But as you can see here, I really just did a very simple build on the cabinet and the drawer. I did put up a partition wall there to create to create basically a glide for that drawer. And then here I'm just fitting in the exhaust. I bought some silicone elbows for basically an intake for a vehicle. You can get them on Amazon, they're fairly cheap. And then I'm just using black PVC pipe for plumbing to extend it through the back wall there. And then I'm putting another elbow that I actually cut about a 30-degree angle on. So I've got our stinky slinky tube set down there, and here I'm just running through everything, just checking it, making sure everything's working like it should. And of course, being the pro that I am, it turned out great. I'm actually really happy with it. The exhaust comes out the back just like I expected it to, or like I wanted it to. And then here I'm just going through, and then the drawer, so it was a 4-foot drawer. I didn't seal the inside of it. It's treated wood, but just to make it aesthetically pleasing on the outside, I went ahead and painted it black. And then here's the real thing I wanted to point out too, is that cleat that I put in there for locking the drawer. I actually raised it up about a 1/2 inch to take some of the pressure off of that cabinet whenever we're driving. And then the downspout, that was another big plus. I really wanted to get that plumbed inside of the bay so that I wouldn't have to leave it hanging outside and closing the door on top of it anymore. So it just cleaned it up overall. I'm really happy with it. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching.